Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1249B, and today's date is April 7th, 2017, and the title of the episode is The Deep State is Now Pushing Their Agenda to Bring the World to War. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, I just want to say to everyone, we are heading into a period of time where things are going to change rapidly. And we are seeing them unfold right in front of our eyes. It's not like this is a surprise to anyone. It's not like this came out of left field where, oh my God, we're firing missiles at Syria. We need to understand that this has been going on for a very long time. And the deep state, their entire agenda from the beginning was to get us into war. They were hoping to prop up the dollar and to control all these countries and all their oil and their assets. And they had this plan, but they're way behind schedule. Most of these individuals are idiots, and they keep trying, and they keep trying until they get what they want. Think about the past here and what we've discussed and what we've seen. Go back to 2013 with Syria, where we almost invaded Syria at that point. We had all our warships ready to go in because of a sarin gas attack, which turned out to be completely fake, phony, and false. And Putin decided, you know something, I'm going to broker a deal here. There's no reason for war. Calm the situation down. And Assad got rid of all his chemical weapons. The UN signed off on it. The United States signed off on it. Russia signed off on it. And they got rid of it. But here today, they're doing the same exact thing. Actually, it's the same exact story. From 2013 to now, the story morphed a little bit, but we always see that these individuals, they always do the same thing. They always go after the same goal. And after all this time, we are talking about the same exact thing. The difference this time is that they are running out of time, that things are not working the way they wanted them to work. And if they don't get this war started, well, they're going to be blamed for a lot of things, and they won't be able to cover up what is about to happen. Now, what's very interesting about all of this is that Trump came out and he gave a speech about how he's going to do something to Syria. Now, his mood, his body language, completely off. So it looks like he must have been told something changed. Doesn't really matter at this point because he was never in control. The individuals behind the curtain have always been in control. And this is why continually I said jobs aren't coming back, manufacturing is not coming back, not until this system is completely wiped out and it's restarted. Hopefully it's not restarted with the central bankers. But to get to that point, they need to cover it up. And this is why they're pushing the war card right now. But what's really interesting right now is that on April 6th, when those missiles were launched, 59 Tomahawk missiles that were launched into Syria, on April 6th of 1917, the U.S. formally entered the Great War, World War I, with President Woodrow Wilson pledging to make the world safe for democracy. Sound familiar? So, it's funny, it's 100 years to the day, and they decided to launch the missiles on that day. And for those people who are into the numbers, there's a 7 in there. It's the 17th, 1917. This is 2017. Very interesting because we keep seeing that number continually appear. And when they announced World War I, Wilson appeared to have underestimated the Americans' enthusiasm for war. Only 73,000 men volunteered for military service within the 6 weeks of the declaration of war. In response to this, you know what they did? They enacted the May 18th Selective Service Act, introducing limited conscription, a draft. What do you think is going to happen this time? Because we know the people, they don't want war. They don't want their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, their children going after war. When the United States announces war, and they eventually will, we're heading down this path. It's a dark path. There's no light at the end right now because things are already in motion. They will completely use a false flag to get us into a war. And we can see right now, this is where we're headed. So once they announce the war, they're going to do the same thing, because the people are not going to run off and say, let's go fight. Actually, it most likely will be less than 73,000 than when it was back in World War I. So they're going to enact the draft, and the draft bill is already in Congress. So what is happening right now? Well, we have the neocons, the central bank, Democrats, the deep state, all cheering for war. It's amazing on the corporate media how the view of Donald Trump completely changed in a split second. And I'm coming back to that split second again, because in a split second, we were firing 59 Tomahawk missiles. How things have changed about, let's say, a week ago. Snap your finger, boom, things have completely changed. And we can see that CNN's Fareed Zakaria, well, he finally said this strange statement that Trump became the president last night. Well, he was always the president. You mean because he's doing what you want him to do? That's kind of odd. Rubio is out there. He is making the case that Russia was complicit in the war crimes. We do have some senators and some congressmen out there saying that this is not allowed at all. This is completely illegal. And remember, during the campaign with Trump, he told us if we vote for Clinton, we're going to World War III. We shouldn't be going after Syria. We should be going after the Islamic State. We shouldn't be going after Assad. We should be going after the Islamic State. And after all this fake news and telling the intelligence agencies that you created fake news, that you did this and you did that, and calling out CNN being very, very fake news, you truly believe that he can't tell the difference with this chemical attack? I mean, really, does it make sense to anybody? It doesn't. But it doesn't matter at this point, because the deep state is in control, and they're getting ready to push their agenda, and that is to get the world into war. Now, Congressman Walt B. Jones released the following statement regarding the launch of U.S. airstrikes in Syria. He said, regardless of the circumstances, no American president has the constitutional right to commit acts of war against a sovereign nation without the approval from Congress. As it's clearly stated in the Constitution, he said, Congress has the sole power to declare war. This is a dangerous precedent for the president to set for the new administration. Rand Paul is out there saying that this is completely against the Constitution. U.S. Senator Ben Cardin said, and he stressed that if President Trump is going to continue airstrikes in Syria, he must get an authorization from Congress for the use of force. Now remember, the United States was not attacked. The United States had no reason to bomb Syria. And those who say, well, he used the War Powers Act, and that's why he was allowed to do it. But the Wars Power Act allows the president to deploy U.S. forces to deal with an immediate threat to the United States without Congress. There was no threat to the United States. But that doesn't apply here because no Americans were killed in that supposed gas attack, nor was the sovereign U.S. territory invaded or damaged. So that doesn't fly. And we can see right now that certain things occurred during this missile launch. We see that Rex Tillerson was out there, and he confirmed on Thursday night that Putin was not giving any advance notice of the United States' decision to strike Syrian targets. Now, there are other reports saying that, yes, Russians had an hour to react to what was about to happen. So there's conflicting reports with that. Then we have the actual missiles, 50 of them, 59 of those missiles hitting Syria. Now, not all of them hit. Some didn't make it. But what they're saying is that the U.S. missiles hit airfields, aircraft hangars, fuel tankers, destroyed fuel tankers, and they destroyed 15 fighter jets, either damaged or they're destroyed. And there's a count of maybe 4, 6, 8 people that were killed in this strike from all of these missiles. Now, what's very interesting about this, and this is where things start to get really strange, the corporate media is out there and they're telling us of how much damage these Tomahawk missiles caused. Some of them didn't even make it. I think 39 actually made it. The rest, they don't know what happened. Now, either Russia blocked them somehow, they malfunctioned or something else occurred. But Russia had a drone, and there's footage of the damage on the airbase. Now, when you look at the footage, the runways are still intact. The bunkers, the hardened bunkers where they keep the planes, they're still intact. And most of the damage is outside of the airbase. A couple buildings hit here and there. So that's kind of strange right off the bat. Now, Putin came out and said the U.S. strikes against Syria is aggression against a sovereign country, which he's absolutely right. We just attacked a sovereign country because they didn't attack the United States. Nobody has a problem with this. The Russian military right now in Syria, well, they are beefing up their air defense cover with S-400, S-300 missile system and the Pantsir missile system, and you can see that they're really beefing this up and protecting assets. Now, what's very interesting about this is that isn't the Syrian air base an asset? What was protecting it? Were there S-300s, S-200s, S-400s? Did these S-200s or 300s shoot down 23 of the Tomahawk missiles? Maybe. We don't know for sure. But this is where it still gets a little strange. Because what is happening here is they're trying to make us believe that this missile strike was supposed to do something. And so far, we don't know what this was supposed to accomplish. I mean, scare Assad? He's been in war for a very long time. The U.S. has been bombing inside of Syria for a very long time, destroying the infrastructure. I don't know if he's really scared from this missile launch. I don't think Russia's really scared from this missile launch. I don't think they're frightened at all. And we can see right now Russia, well, they're going to suspend the airspace pact with the U.S. right now. But they're still going to keep the lines of communication open, which means that if something happens in the air or on the ground, World War III could start. So let's break this down here. Let's just look at what's happening. The goal from the beginning was to get Assad and then go into Iran. That was their final mission. U.S. has been sending troops and building bases for over a year now inside of Syria. The runway was just hardened in their bases to bring in C-17 transport planes. The C-17 commonly performs tactical and strategic airlift missions, transporting troops and cargo throughout the world, and they can move in heavy assets like tanks into this area. And they've been flying in regularly. Means that they've already been preparing for what they're doing. They used a false flag chemical attack. Evidence was not produced. The U.S., as always, through the deep state, already know who did it. Without doing an investigation, without evidence, nothing. They just point the finger to Assad and said, he's the one. Because they just know it. Well, shouldn't have Trump said, listen, before we do anything, shouldn't there be an investigation to prove that it was Assad? Because we're not too sure. Actually, there were congressmen out there. Thomas Massey was out there saying, I don't know if it really was Assad. What would be his motive at this point? He doesn't have a motive. I mean, Trump announces that he made a decision to launch the Tomahawk missiles. Body language is off. Tone is off. They must be controlling him at this point. The mainstream media, government officials, they're cheering this on. It's like they're chanting, war, war, war. Tomahawk missiles are launching off. They're saying it's beautiful. And there are reports that are conflicting that Russia was notified, not notified. Missiles were launched, and they're saying there's a huge amount of damage. And they're saying this is the base where all the chemical weapons came from. This is where they launched the attack. And this is how it happened. Well, we can see already from the footage of the chemical attack that we don't even know if there was a chemical attack because they weren't wearing gloves. If it was truly sarin gas, well, there'd be problems with those individuals that were helping those who were suffering. So most likely, there was no sarin gas. There were no defense systems protecting the air base. Maybe there were. So far, Russia hasn't come out and said it. There were no S-200s, 300s, or 400s. Now, Tomahawk missiles, they didn't make it to their target, so something did happen in the air. But the strange thing is, when you look at the footage, the runways are intact, the hangars are intact, and guess what? Planes are now taking off from that same airbase. What did this accomplish? Nothing. Russia is sailing their frigate into the Mediterranean, where they have caliber missiles on there, which they could use against the Islamic State, which they can use against the United States if it gets that far. So there's no real damage on the base. Planes are flying off of it. Many of the Tomahawk missiles didn't make it. What was the message here? What did they accomplish? Did they destroy the Islamic State? Did they get Assad out? No, they've done none of this. The agreement between Russia and the U.S. has been canceled, though. Safe zones are being built right now. And Rubio came out with a very strange message, hinting to the next false flag. He was talking to Sean Hannity, and his response that he gave, he expects from Syria, in retaliation from the Tomahawk missiles, that the United States troops could be targeted. Well, is he trying to tell us that they're going to be setting up a false flag? Because think about what's happening here. Trump has been talking about safe zones. They've been building a safe zone. Turkey wants a safe zone. Tillerson said, we're going to change the name to stabilization zone, which is the same thing as a no-fly zone, safe zone. Doesn't matter what it's called. It's the same thing. To create this zone, and this plan was created way back in 2011 via a think tank. So the plan was always to create some type of zone to separate Syria if they couldn't get Assad out. And this is what they've been working on. So this zone that they're creating, and Turkey is pushing for a no-fly zone right now, and they're actually creating this zone, it's going to take a huge number of soldiers to control it, maintain it. They're going to need air support, hence the bases, hence the C-17s bringing in all the military assets. And we can see already there's 2,500 soldiers in Syria right now. I know they have lower counts, but a lot of the soldiers are being moved into Syria from Iraq. Soldiers are coming in, military assets are coming in from the United States all the time on the C-17s. And we see right now they're preparing to bring this full circle because the deep state understands that they need to do this. Now, Nikki Haley is out there. She's saying this is just the beginning. There could be more attacks because this attack did absolutely nothing. Maybe it was symbolic, who knows? But it really didn't do anything. It looks frightening, but it didn't do anything within Syria. It didn't stop them from using the air base. It didn't stop them from attacking the Islamic State. So at this point, if the United States goes ahead and they attack Syria once again, we're going to have to see what Putin does. Do I think Putin is going to react right now and say the war is on? Absolutely not. He is not going to do this. When we look at all his actions from the past, he is not going to head in that direction. Most likely, he's going to try to calm the situation down. The Russians right now have been saying, listen, we need to talk, we need to talk. But we can see the deep state never wants to talk to Russia. They don't want to deal with Russia. They don't want to work with Russia to go after the Islamic State because that has not been their plan from the beginning. So what are we going to see moving forward right now? Well, we're going to see more events. Why is this? Because they're already making the case that Russia knew about the chemical weapons. They were part of it. They're already bringing them in full circle to this because they want Russia involved, because they need to get war started. War was going to start no matter what. The deep state had this plan for a very long time. We talked about this plan. And this time around, it's not going to be like World War II. They have, I'm talking about Russia and China, forget about North Korea. They have missile systems that can reach the United States. They have missile systems that can destroy cities. The landscape of America is going to change. The wars that we've known in the past, where it's being fought outside someplace else and we're receiving the newsreels, now we'll be receiving the videos or the YouTube video of what is going on. Well, that's not going to happen this time. This time, the war is going to be fought here. Because if we attack any of these countries, or if we get into a war with any of these countries, they will attack the United States. I mean, the U.S. government, the central bankers, they talk about cyber attacks, which were completely created by the CIA. This time, you're going to see the real cyber attack. Because when it gets down and dirty, and we're in this war, everything that we talked about in the past has led up to this point. Here we are. And the deep state is not going to stop. They need this war. The central banks need this war. Why? Because the invasion of all these Middle Eastern countries and Iran was supposed to be completed in 2008. Where are we today? Why do you think they kept the system going for so long? Why do you think they didn't let it fail? Because they didn't want the system to fail, and they didn't want to be blamed for a failing system. So they propped it up any way they possibly could. But they realize it's deteriorating very, very quickly. It's collapsing. The debt bomb is going to go off. They're running out of time. They need this war. Why do they need the war? Because with a war, they can make the excuse to create currency like you've never seen before. They don't care about the debt at that point because we're at war. They can explain away why you're not getting fuel. They can explain away why the shelves in the stores are completely empty. They can explain away why you need to sacrifice for this war. They can explain away everything that has happened, and everything in the past will be forgotten. This is why they need this war. It's almost like 9/11, and the day before they were talking about trillions of dollars from the Pentagon. It disappeared. With a war, with an event this large, everyone forgets. They forget what the central bank has done. They forget what the neocons have done. They forget what the deep state has done. They forget all of it. And guess what happens after the war? Depending on who wins, they believe they're going to win. Not too sure about that, because we're not going up against Iraq. We're not going up against Lebanon. We're going up against Russia and China. And some of their weaponry is more advanced than the United States. Some of their weaponry can bypass the shield that they set up. Some of their weaponry, by flipping a switch, can shut down a ship and the Aegis system. They did it in the Black Sea. So we're headed to this point in time. And this war is going to be completely different this time. And we are running out of time. We need to make a move where we say no. We knew this time was going to come, and we're at this point once again. Because if the people around the country don't stand up and say, absolutely not, we're not doing this. Once they announce war, like back in World War I, and they notice that people aren't signing up, they're going to start the draft. At that point, it's too late. We're in the war. So we need a movement. We need people to come together. We need the message to get out there. We need people on social media continually saying no war, no war, no war. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.